To solve a case involving the murder of 12 women, I used deception to lure the suspect out. I pried open his door, put on gloves, and began searching the apartment. At first, there was nothing unusual, but something about the floor caught my attention. I pulled back the carpet and uncovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a box filled with detailed records from multiple cases. This was the evidence we had been looking for. Just as I was absorbed in reading it, police sirens suddenly blared outside. The building was already surrounded, and my unauthorized search was illegal. If I didn't get out immediately, I'd be in serious trouble. I climbed onto the roof as officers rushed into the room below, barely escaping. Meanwhile, the real killer watched from a distance and even waved at Jim. Jim came to pick me up, completely unaware that he was being toyed with. The next day, we officially identified the killer, but the following days led nowhere. To catch him, Jim and I kept him under near constant surveillance. One night, hoping to give Jim a break, I stepped out to buy coffee. That's when a nearby phone booth rang. Curious, Jim got out of the car to answer it, only to realize the call was intentionally placed by the killer. Enraged, Jim drew his gun, confronting him with photos of the missing girls.
Where is she? You don't want to know. Not really. You like that? Jeez. Coming.
It was exactly the trap the killer had planned. When I returned with the coffee and saw what was happening, I immediately followed them. The killer led Jim to a remote farm and pointed to a spot, saying, "The girls are buried here." Jim tried to force him to dig, but the killer refused, leaving Jim to dig himself. 10 minutes later, the killer claimed he'd made a mistake and told Jim to dig somewhere else.
I forgot to tell you. I've seen a picture of your family. You should have stayed out of the public eye, Jimmy. You and your ego. How can you protect those two beautiful daughters when you can't even begin to help one of those poor girls or their families?
With his patience exhausted, Jim completely lost control and beat the killer to death with a shovel. When I arrived at the scene, I saw the body and calmly walked over. Jim tried to explain, but I told him it was too late. I instructed him to bury the body and said I would take care of the rest. I rushed back to the city, went to the killer's house, packed up the room and the metal box I had found earlier, and staged the scene to make it look like he had fled. Then I returned to Jim. With my help, we successfully buried the body. I told Jim to stay out of sight for a while and take time off. A few days later, he received word from a colleague that the killer had escaped and the case was temporarily closed.